Grace and Sophia were now walking around the village like celebrities. Every morning they dressed like queens. Grace would tie her wrapper high, wear red lipstick, and hold her small handbag like a trophy. Sophia would wear short skirts and tight blouses, swinging her hips as she passed people on the road. They acted like they owned the village. Grace said she was now the king's special woman. She told everyone that the king doesn't eat unless she brings his food. She said soon the king would sack all his other wives and announce her as the new queen. Sophia also said her married lover gave her money every week. She told people that he bought her a new phone, even though the screen was cracked and the phone had no SIM card inside. They went to the market one afternoon. Grace priced meat from a meat seller, but when it was time to pay, she said, "Don't worry. My husband the king will pay." Sophia wanted to buy slippers. She said, "I don't have cash, but I'll pay you next week. My man is bringing money from the city." The sellers looked at each other and laughed behind them. Some women in the market whispered, "See them village champions?" Another one said, "They are fooling themselves. The king is only using her. That married man will never leave his wife for Sophia." But Grace and Sophia didn't care. They continued walking around with pride. In the evening, they went to a local bar and ordered drinks. They didn't pay. Grace told the owner, "Put it on the king's account." Sophia said, "Add meat. My man is rich." The bar owner just smiled and said, "Okay." But after they left, he shook his head. "Big shame is coming." Grace sat outside that night, fanning herself and smiling at the stars. "Sophia," she said, "do you see how the villagers respect us now?" Sophia replied, "Yes, Mama. Before they used to gossip, now they greet us first." Grace nodded. "Let them talk. We are the real champions in this village." They both laughed again, thinking they were winning in life. Sophia sat on the small bamboo bench behind the bar, where she usually met her married lover, Mr. Felix. He was fat, dark, and always wore big sunglasses, even at night. He came in smiling, holding a small nylon bag of fried meat and a bottle of drink. "My baby," he said, dropping the items in front of her. Sophia didn't smile. She folded her arms and looked away. He sat beside her and tried to touch her hand, but she pulled back. "What is it again, my love?" he asked. Sophia turned sharply. "I'm tired, Felix. Very tired. You keep saying the same thing every time. When are you going to buy me the car and house you promised me?" Felix coughed. "Baby, take it easy." "No," she shouted. "I'm tired of this rubbish. Every time I call, you say you're busy. Every time I ask for something, you say soon. When is soon?" Felix tried to calm her down. "See, baby, don't shout here. People are watching." "I don't care," Sophia said. "I want my own life. I want my own house. I want my own car. I'm tired of hiding like a thief." Felix scratched his head. "My business will soon click. The money is coming. Once it enters, I will do everything. I swear." Sophia frowned. "You've been saying this for 5 months. I'm not stupid, Felix. If you know you won't leave your wife, just tell me now." He held her hand. "I will leave her. I swear on my life." Sophia's eyes watered. "You better mean it, because if you ever lie to me, I will end this relationship with my 2 hands." "I'm not joking." Felix smiled. "Calm down, my queen. I love you. My wife is just holding space. She's old cargo." Sophia wiped her eyes. "So what's the plan now?" Felix leaned closer. "Once my container lands in Lagos, we'll sell everything and start a new life. I'll divorce her and marry you. You'll be the real madam." Sophia smiled small. You're serious." "I'm very serious," Felix said. "You are not just any girl. You're special. You're beautiful. And the way you handled me in bed, Chai." Sophia blushed. "Even my rich ex-boyfriend in the city was not as good as you. I like the way you touch me. I don't know what you do to me." Felix laughed loudly. "That's why I can't let you go." He brought out a small gold chain from his pocket. "Take this. Just manage it till my money comes." Sophia grabbed it and smiled. "I love you, Felix. I love you more," he said. "You know my wife can't even dance. She still wears wrapper to sleep. Local village champion." They both laughed. "But you," Felix said, "you're hot. You make me feel like a man." Sophia rested her head on his shoulder and whispered, "Please don't break my heart." "I won't," he said, kissing her forehead. They sat like that in the dark corner, making sweet promises and telling sweet lies. Sophia didn't know that the same Felix told his wife that Sophia was just a joke and he had no plans to leave home. Grace went to the palace again. She wore her finest dress and walked in with full confidence. She met the king sitting under a tree drinking local wine. "Your Majesty," she greeted. The king smiled. "Grace, welcome." She sat down. "I came to ask you again. When are you going to marry me?" The king sighed. "Not soon. I have to talk to my 2 wives first. I need their approval." Grace frowned. "So, after everything, you still need permission?" The king said. "That's how it is." Grace stood up. "Don't worry. I've heard enough." She turned and walked out, shaking her head and grumbling. As she reached the palace gate, she saw the king's only son, Maxwell. He was tall, well-built, and good-looking. He smiled at her. "Hello?" he said. Grace stopped and smiled back. "Hello, young man." Maxwell looked at her body from head to toe. "You're beautiful." "Very beautiful." Grace smiled and said, "Thank you, handsome." "I like older women," Maxwell said, stepping closer. "They know what they want." Grace's eyes widened. "Really?" "Yes," he said. "Let's meet tonight." Grace licked her lips. "You can come to my house. I don't have any husband. I'm single and free. Let me be your sugar mommy." Maxwell laughed and nodded. "Say no more." "I'll be there." Grace walked home like someone floating in the air. She couldn't stop smiling. When she got home, Sophia was sitting outside. "Mama, why are you smiling like this? Did the king finally agree to marry you?" she asked. Grace sat beside her. "Forget the king. He's confused. Guess who I met?" "Who?" "His son," Grace said proudly. "Maxwell, he told me I'm beautiful. He said he loves older women." Sophia jumped up. "Mama, you are a bad woman. So it's not the king anymore. Now it's the prince." Grace said, "If the king is wasting time, his son won't waste time." Sophia clapped her hands. "So it's not the king anymore? Now it's his son." Grace nodded. "We will deal with all the useless men in this village one by one." They both laughed. Grace had been dating Maxwell for some weeks. He came to her house almost every night. She cooked for him, washed his clothes, and gave him everything he asked for. Maxwell was handsome, charming, and sweet with words. Grace believed he truly loved her. One evening they sat together in her room after eating. Maxwell was quiet. He looked worried. Grace asked, "Baby, what's wrong? You've been quiet since." Maxwell looked at her. "I want to tell you something serious." Grace touched his arm. "Tell me anything for you." He took a deep breath. "If you do it for me, I will marry you immediately." Grace's eyes brightened. "Really?" "Yes, Maxwell said. But it's not a small thing. It's big. Very big. Tell me now, she said. I'm ready. He looked her straight in the eye. My father refuses to die. And until he dies, I can't become king. Grace blinked. What are you saying? I want to be king, Grace, Maxwell said slowly. And I need your help. Grace frowned. What kind of help? He leaned closer. I want you to help me unall alive him. Grace jumped from the bed. Jesus, what? Keep your voice down, Maxwell warned. She looked at him with fear. You want to kill your father? I'm tired of waiting, Maxwell said. He's old. He's weak. But he refuses to go. He won't hand over the throne. I've begged him. I've tried to convince him. He won't listen. Grace held her head. No, I can't do that. Never. Maxwell stood up. So after everything I did for you, this is what I get. Please, don't talk like that, Grace said. I love you, but not that way. He turned to leave. Then we are done. I will break up with you. Grace panicked. No, please, baby, don't say that. I will think about it. Maxwell smiled and walked back to her. That's my baby. I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. Grace nodded slowly, her heart beating fast. I just need time to think. He kissed her forehead. Think fast. I'm serious. That night, after Maxwell left, Grace sat alone in the dark, sweating. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was heavy. She didn't know what to do. If she says no, she will lose him. If she says yes, she may lose everything. Meanwhile, back in the city, life had changed for Richard. Since leaving the village with Daniel, things had been peaceful. He focused on his business, and slowly, he started smiling again. One evening, he met a beautiful young woman named Anita. She was calm, respectful, and hardworking. They met at a supermarket when she helped him pick up his dropped bag. One talk led to another, and they started seeing each other often. Within a few weeks, they became close. Anita would come around to help with cooking and cleaning. She treated Daniel like a younger brother. She didn't care about Richard's money. She liked his heart. Daniel noticed the change in his father. Richard laughed more, dressed better, and looked younger. One Saturday morning, Daniel sat with his father in the living room. Daddy, Daniel said. Yes, son. When are you getting married? Richard smiled. Married? Where's that coming from? Daniel looked serious. I see the way you look at Anita. You like her? Richard chuckled. Yes, I do. She's a good woman, but I still need time. Daniel nodded. Because of Mom. Richard sighed and looked away. Yes. Your mother made her choice. She left us and followed her own path. Daniel paused. But do you still think about her? Richard was quiet for a moment. I do. Not because I want her back, but because I trusted her. I built a life with her, and she threw it away. Daniel looked into his father's eyes. Daddy, will you ever forgive her? Richard breathed deeply. Yes, I will forgive. But I will never forget. Daniel placed his hand on his father's shoulder. You're a strong man, Dad. I'm proud of you. Richard smiled and touched Daniel's hand. Thank you, son. You've been my biggest blessing. Daniel smiled back. You deserve to be happy. Anita is nice. Maybe she's the new beginning you need. Richard nodded slowly. Maybe, but I won't rush. This time I'll take it step by step. They sat there in silence, sipping warm tea, watching the sun rise from the balcony. For the first time in a long time, peace filled the house. Back in the village, Sophia sat alone in her room, holding a small piece of paper in her hand. It was the pregnancy test. She stared at the two bold lines and sighed deeply. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. She didn't know whether to cry or smile. After a few minutes, she stood up, cleaned her face, and went straight to Felix's shop. He was inside, counting money and talking on the phone. When he saw Sophia, he quickly dropped the phone. "My baby," he smiled. "What brings you here this early?" Sophia didn't waste time. "I'm pregnant." Felix froze. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "Very sure." I checked twice. Felix's eyes widened. Then he jumped up and hugged her tight. "God has finally answered me. I've been married to that foolish woman for many years. No child. Now God has blessed me through you." Sophia was surprised. "You're happy." "Happy?" Felix shouted. "I feel like dancing. You are carrying my child, and that's all that matters. Keep it, my love. That child will be my heir." Sophia smiled softly. "But baby, I don't want that woman around the house." Felix nodded quickly. "Done. She is leaving my house tomorrow. You will move in." Sophia was shocked. "Really?" "Yes," he said. "She has no say in my life. She dare not open her mouth. I'm the man of the house. You and my baby are my future now." Sophia hugged him tight. "Thank you, baby. I won't disappoint you." Later that evening, Sophia rushed home and told her mother everything. "Mama, I'm pregnant," she shouted. Grace jumped up. "What? For Felix?" Sophia added, smiling. Grace clapped her hands. "That's my girl! You have done well. Now your future is settled." Sophia laughed. "He said his wife is leaving tomorrow and I'll move in." Grace nodded proudly. "Felix is doing well for himself. He has land, shop, and respect. He will take care of you." Sophia looked at her mother. "What about you and the prince? Any good news?" Grace smiled and placed her hand on her chest. "Very soon, my daughter. Very soon he will marry me, and I will give him 4 kids." Sophia teased. "Mama, are you not too old to get pregnant at your age?" Grace frowned playfully. "Will you shut your mouth?" "Mind your business. Love has no age. The prince loves me like no man has ever loved me before." Sophia laughed. "Okay. Oh, just don't carry twins at your age." Grace joined her in laughing. "Even if I do, I will carry them with style." They both laughed loudly like best friends. Grace said, "Very soon, we will both be married. You will be madam of your house, and I will be palace queen." Sophia nodded. "Mama, our time has come." But outside the door, a woman passing by heard everything. She shook her head and muttered, "2 goats dancing on a cliff. They don't know they're close to falling." But Grace and Sophia were not bothered. To them, life was sweet, and tomorrow looked bright. Or so they thought. Sophia had now moved into Felix's house. His first wife was gone. He had chased her out without warning, and Sophia took her place. She arranged the room the way she liked, moved her clothes in, and started calling herself Madam of the House. At first, everything was sweet. Felix gave her money every morning before going to his shop. He would say, "Buy food, cook something good, rest well, take care of my baby." Sophia would smile and say, "Yes, baby, I love you." But as the days passed, things started changing. Felix would come home tired, sweating, and hungry. He would open the pot empty. He would look at the table, nothing. "Sophia!" he would shout. She would walk out slowly from the room, holding her stomach. "Yes." "Where is the food?" Felix asked. She would frown. "Don't you know I'm pregnant? I was tired, but I gave you money." He shouted. "I used some. I bought something for myself. I slept off." Felix shook his head and went outside hungry and angry. The same thing happened again the next day, and the next. Sometimes she would lie that the firewood was wet. Other times she would say she felt dizzy, but mostly she just didn't want to cook. Felix finally had enough. One evening he came home again and saw no food. He threw his bag on the floor. "Sophia, are you the first woman to get pregnant?" She came out angry. "What's your problem again? I work hard every day to provide for you and the unborn child, and you can't even cook." "My first wife was not like this." Sophia shouted back, "To hell with you! And that your foolish first wife? Maybe she was your slave, but I'm not." Felix's eyes widened. "Don't insult her. I will insult her, and insult you, too. If my father didn't become poor, a local village man like you will never see me in this place." Felix stood up. "What did you say?" "You heard me?" Sophia shouted. "This whole house smells like your poverty. Your mother that married 5 different men is the same. Shameless family." That was the last straw. Felix's hand flew across her face. She fell to the floor. "Don't talk about my mother," he shouted. Sophia tried to get up, but he pushed her again. "Touch me again, and I'll kill you," she screamed. But before anything else could happen, she felt a sharp pain in her stomach. She held her belly and cried out. Felix stepped back. "What is it?" "My baby!" she screamed. They rushed to a local nurse nearby, but it was too late. She had lost the pregnancy. The news spread fast. Some said it was her fault. Others said Felix went too far, but Sophia didn't care. She was broken, hurt, and angry. The next morning, she packed her things and left Felix's house. When she got home, Grace saw her and asked, "Sophia, what happened?" Sophia entered the house quietly, dropped her bag, and sat on the floor. Tears rolled down her face. "I'm done, Mama," she said. "I've had enough." Grace sat beside her. "What happened?" "I lost the baby." Grace gasped. "He beat me. I insulted him. I insulted his family. I was tired." Everything became a mess. Grace hugged her tightly. "It's okay, my daughter." "You are safe now," Sophia whispered. "I should have stayed in the city. I shouldn't have followed him." They sat together in silence. No more laughter. No more pride. Just pain and regrets. Grace was still deep inside her dreams. Every day she prepared food for Maxwell, wore her best dresses, and smiled like a woman already married. He came, around often, ate with joy, called her sweet names, and left late in the night. His touches felt real, his kisses were convincing, and his promises sounded sweet like honey. She believed with all her heart that she was just one step away from becoming the queen. But one evening the truth came like thunder. She met Maxwell under the big mango tree behind the school, their usual meeting point. She asked him when he would finally make things official. She was tired of hiding. She wanted to know what the future held for them. That was when Maxwell dropped the bomb. He said he had been thinking, and the truth was simple. She was old enough to be his mother. He never planned to marry her. He just enjoyed the benefits. She cooked for him, gave him money, shared her body, and showed him love. But he never asked for it. Everything she gave it willingly. Grace stood there, heart pounding, mouth dry, face blank. He looked at her without pity. He called her desperate, said he didn't like women who begged for love. He laughed, turned his back, and walked away like nothing happened. Grace couldn't move. Her legs failed her. Her hands shook. Her heart broke into tiny pieces. She wiped her tears slowly and walked home. She found Sophia sitting outside the house, drinking Gary like nothing was happening in the world. Grace dropped her bag on the bench and sat down without greeting. The pain was heavy in her voice as she explained everything. how the prince had used her, lied to her, and dumped her like garbage. She couldn't even repeat the words he used. They were too painful. Sophia's eyes widened with surprise, but her face remained calm. She told her mother not to worry. She would go and talk to Maxwell. Maybe he just needed to hear sense. Maybe he didn't mean what he said. Maybe she could convince him. Grace held on to that hope. She watched her daughter walk away with confidence. She believed Sophia was going to defend her honor. But that was not what happened. Sophia reached the mango tree where Maxwell sat alone. She didn't come with tears or anger. She came with a smile, slow steps, and soft words. She didn't beg on behalf of her mother. She didn't mention heartbreak. She sat beside him, crossed her legs, and started telling him things that no one expected. Sophia said he was too handsome to be dating an old woman. She asked if he was blind not to see her beauty all this time. She told him she had been in love with him long ago before her mother even noticed him. Sophia said her mother was finished, out of style, too old to handle a man like him. Maxwell laughed. Her words fed his ego. He told her she was right. He liked them young, smart, and beautiful. He said he never loved Grace, not even for one day. His plan was to use her to unail, alive his father, take the throne, and become king. But since Grace refused to help, she was useless to him. Now he had changed his mind. Sophia was better, young, fine, and ready. The kind of woman a king needs beside him. Sophia leaned close and smiled. She told him that's exactly what she wanted to hear. She said, "Nobody must know, not even her mother. Their relationship must remain a secret." Maxwell agreed. He told her the king was already sick and very soon he would die. Once he was gone, the throne would be his and Sophia would become queen. They sealed the secret with a quiet kiss behind the mango tree. Sophia went back home that evening with a straight face. She didn't mention what happened. She walked into the room, helped her mother lie down, and even brought water to cool her forehead. Grace smiled weakly, still believing her daughter was fighting for her. Back in the city, a quiet wedding took place. Richard had moved on with his life. After many months of peace, hard work, and healing, he got married to Anita, the kind young woman who stood by him when no one else did. Daniel stood beside his father on that special day, smiling with pride. He watched his father say, "I do," with joy on his face, and his heart was full. The guests cheered. The music played. Richard and Anita danced like two people who had found peace after a storm. Daniel was happy. He finally saw the man he once knew, calm, respected, and loved again. Meanwhile, back in the village, thunder was about to strike. Grace was sweeping the compound early in the morning when she overheard two young girls talking by the roadside. They were whispering, laughing, and pointing toward her house. She stood still, broom in hand, listening carefully. One of them said, "You don't know. Sophia and the prince are now dating." The second one giggled. "That girl is really a sharp girl. She'd on land for palace level." Grace's heart skipped. Her hand dropped the broom without knowing. She felt like someone poured cold water on her body. The girls didn't even look her way. They kept walking and laughing, not knowing she had heard every single word. Grace stood there frozen. The world around her became quiet. Her mind started racing. Her feet moved on their own, heading straight into the house. Sophia was standing in front of the mirror, admiring herself. Grace didn't hide her anger. She shouted Sophia's name like thunder. She asked Sophia the question sharp and plain. Sophia turned slowly, looked at her mother and smiled and gave no excuse. She confessed with boldness. She said yes. She was dating Maxwell now. She laughed and asked if her mother wasn't ashamed. Said Maxwell was too young for an old woman like her. Said he was now hers, body and soul. She told her mother to go and find an old man that fits her age. Or better still, go and beg her poor ex-husband to take her back. Sophia called her mother foolish for leaving her father just because he lost money only to chase a prince who would never marry her. Grace's body was shaking. The anger inside her was too much. She clapped her hands together and released fire. She called Sophia a useless daughter, a disgrace, a girl without sense or shame. She reminded her of how she got pregnant for a married man and lost the child. Reminded her how her mates were in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt working in offices while she was here in the village chasing after young and married men like a street hawker. Grace shouted, "You are a true daughter of your lazy father. No shame, no future, just dust." Sophia didn't keep quiet. She faced her mother with strong words. She said Grace was jealous because she lost, that the prince now belonged to her, that the past was dead and buried, and she had no right to talk. Grace raised her voice again. "I will never leave Maxwell for you. Never." Sophia looked at her calmly, smiled, and replied, "We shall see." The house became a war zone. 2 women under one roof, same blood, no love. The wind outside was calm, but inside their house, it was fire. Grace couldn't sleep. After the fight with Sophia, her mind was boiling. She couldn't bear the thought of losing Maxwell to her own daughter. Her pride was gone. Her shame didn't matter anymore. Her heart wanted only one thing: Maxwell. The next day, she called Maxwell for a secret meeting. They met behind the old village clinic under a big tree. Grace was shaking, but serious. She looked into his eyes and told him she was ready to do it. She would unalive the king for him. She said she couldn't stand watching him choose Sophia. She told him she loved the way he handled her in bed, the way he touched her body, and she was willing to do anything just to keep him. Maxwell smiled slowly. He told her if she truly did it, he would forget Sophia and marry her after becoming king. Grace felt like flying. She was finally going to be the queen. That same night, Grace sneaked into the palace. She knew the guards wouldn't let her near the king, so she used her body. She seduced one of the guards, slept with him, and begged him to help her enter the king's chamber secretly. The foolish guard agreed, but when she got to the king's room, she stood there for minutes, staring at the old man. He was sleeping peacefully, looking weak and fragile. Grace's hands shook. She couldn't do it. Tears dropped from her eyes. She turned and ran out of the room. She didn't waste time. She went straight to Maxwell's secret hideout and told him everything. How she had already slept with the guard, how she tried to do it but couldn't. Maxwell's face changed. He stood up slowly and looked at her without emotion. In that moment, Grace knew something was wrong. She begged him to understand, told him she did everything for love. But the next morning, the whole village woke up to shocking news. The king was dead. Poison. There was panic everywhere. Guards ran up and down, chiefs gathered, people cried, and before afternoon, Grace and the same guard she slept with were arrested. Grace shouted that she was innocent. She said she didn't do anything, but nobody believed her. Why? Because Maxwell had the voice recording. Grace's voice telling him how she slept with the guard and how she was ready to do anything to unalive the king. He showed the council the proof. They believed him. Grace's name was dragged in the mud. From wanting to be the queen to prisoner, they locked her inside a cold, smelly jail cell. Day and night, she cried and shouted that she didn't kill anyone. Nobody listened. She sat in the corner of the prison, thinking of her life. She remembered everything. How she left her husband, how she chased the prince, how she fought her daughter. All for what? Now she was wearing rags, eating once a day, and sleeping on a bare floor. One day, she begged a female prison officer to help her make a call. The officer agreed. Grace didn't have any phone number written down, but she had one in her head. Daniel's. She closed her eyes, recited the number, and the officer dialed it. Daniel picked. As soon as he heard her voice, he froze. She cried. She begged. She told him she was in jail. He asked her what happened, and she explained everything from Maxwell's plan to the failed mission to the voice recording. She told him she had heard that his father was rich again, but she didn't believe it then. She thought people were lying. She begged Daniel to help her talk to his father. She said Richard could use his influence to open an investigation and expose the prince. She said she was truly innocent. Daniel kept quiet for a while. Then he told her the truth. His father was married now. He didn't know if he would want to help her after all the pain she caused. Grace cried more. She said she was sorry. She had realized her mistake too late. She said all she wanted now was justice and forgiveness. Daniel sighed and told her not to worry. If she was truly innocent, he would help. He would try to talk to his father and see what could be done. Before ending the call, Daniel told her the truth. She caused everything by herself. She made choices, and those choices led her to where she was now. Grace nodded on the phone, crying. She whispered, "I know. I know I messed up. Please just help me. I don't want to die here." Daniel promised nothing, but he hung up the phone with her voice echoing in his ears. Daniel couldn't sleep that night. His mother's voice kept ringing in his head. She was crying, begging, and helpless. Even though she had hurt him and his father badly, he could feel her pain, and deep inside, he believed she was telling the truth. The next morning, he walked up to his father, who was seated in the living room reading a newspaper. Daniel stood in front of him. He told him everything from the call he received, to the prison, to the prince, to the king's death. He begged him to use his connection to find out if Grace was innocent. Richard dropped the paper and looked at his son. His eyes turned red with anger. He stood up. He shouted at Daniel. Told him he would never help that woman, never. Not after everything she did. Not after how she disgraced him. Not after how she walked out of his life like he was nothing. Daniel tried to talk, but Richard walked away and entered his room. The house was quiet. Daniel sat down on the sofa and dropped his head in his hands. A few minutes later, Anita walked in and saw him. She asked what was wrong, and Daniel explained everything again, this time with tears in his eyes. Anita sighed deeply. She looked toward the bedroom door where her husband had locked himself in. She didn't waste time. She walked to the door, knocked once, and went inside. She sat beside Richard and held his hand. She begged. She reminded him of how much he had changed, how he was no longer the bitter man Grace left behind. She told him this was not about revenge. It was about doing the right thing. She asked him, "If she dies in prison and she's innocent, will you be able to live with that?" Richard didn't answer immediately. His chest was rising and falling slowly. His eyes were wet but strong. Anita held him tighter and whispered, "You don't have to forgive her, but please, help her." There was silence. Long silence. Then Richard nodded slowly. "Only for you and Daniel," he said. Anita smiled, wiped her tears, and hugged him. She came out and told Daniel the good news. Richard was going to make some calls. He would reach out to the commissioner of police. He would ask for a full investigation. He would send someone to that village to dig out the truth. Daniel stood up and hugged Anita tight. "Thank you," he whispered. His heart was lighter. There was still hope. Meanwhile, back in the village, the crown was now on Maxwell's head. The people danced. Goats were slaughtered. Palm wine flowed like river. Drums echoed from house to house. Women sang his praise. The boy who once moved in silence had become king. And Sophia, she followed him everywhere, dressed like a queen, smiling for the crowd. After the coronation ceremony, the crowd left. The drums stopped and silence returned to the palace. Sophia waited for that moment all day, the moment they would be alone. She believed now that he was king. He would marry her immediately. After everything she sacrificed, after fighting her mother, after carrying his secrets, she believed marriage was the reward. Night came. They were alone in his new room. She smiled, moved close to him, and asked softly, "So when are we getting married?" Maxwell turned his head slowly. Then he laughed. Not small laugh, big laugh from deep inside his stomach. Sophia stood confused. He looked her from head to toe and asked her if she really believed he would marry someone like her. A girl who couldn't even keep herself. A village girl with no shame, a girl who jumped from a married man's bed to his. A girl that even her mother used to share him with. Sophia's face dropped. Her heart began to shake. She couldn't speak. Maxwell stood up and walked to the window. He said he had played his part. He used who he wanted to use. Now he was king. He didn't need her anymore. He said queens must come from royal background, not from broken homes and dirty stories. Sophia begged. She knelt. She reminded him of everything she did for him, everything she gave him, even her own mother. Maxwell laughed again. He told her to pack her things and leave before palace guards throw her out. Sophia crawled out of the room, tears falling like rain. She didn't know how she reached home that night. She locked herself inside, refused to eat, refused to talk. The same mouth that once insulted Grace now stayed silent. Her hands that once pushed her mother out now held her own head in shame. Regret came heavy like a mountain. Richard didn't speak much after hearing Grace's story. He just sat on the edge of his bed that night, eyes on the floor, mind far away. She had made her mistakes. That was true. But her voice over the phone didn't sound like a liar. It sounded like a woman broken by the very thing she thought was love. After 2 nights of thinking, Richard picked up his phone and called an old friend, a man he trusted, a man who owed him a favor, a division police officer. "I need help," Richard said calmly. "Quiet work, no noise. Somebody has been framed." That was all the DPO needed to hear. Within days, they set the plan in motion. A young woman was sent, beautiful, calm, and smart. She entered the village like a visitor. Nobody knew she was an officer, not even Maxwell. She played her role well. He noticed her quickly. The new face, the soft smile, the way she listened when he spoke. Maxwell liked women who paid him attention. She gave him all of it. They started spending time together quietly. She acted innocent. He acted powerful. He believed she liked him. That was exactly what she wanted. Then one hot afternoon, while they sat behind the palace, he leaned back and smiled. "You don't know what I did to become king." She laughed, touched his hand. He continued proud of himself. Grace was supposed to do it, but the fool couldn't. He leaned closer. I had to finish it myself. My own father. Nobody would believe it. That's why I pinned it on her. He smiled again, proud and foolish. He didn't know everything was being recorded. That same night, the recording was in the DPO's hands. It was over. Before sunrise, a black vehicle parked quietly outside the palace. No crowd, no shouting, no explanation. Maxwell was taken. Grace sat on the prison bench, eyes to the ground, hands on her knees. The cell door opened. A voice called her name. "You've been cleared." She didn't understand at first. The female officer repeated it. "You're free. Your name has been removed from the case." She stood slowly, almost like someone waking from a dream. Outside the gate, Daniel waited, and beside him, Richard. No anger on his face, no smile either, just silence. Grace walked out and saw them. She broke down in tears, walked to Richard, knelt without shame. "Thank you." Her voice was low, broken. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm sorry for everything." Richard looked at her, still no words, but he didn't walk away. That was enough. Daniel helped her up. They walked away together. Sophia sat outside their small village house, staring at the ground like it held the answers to her pain. Everything around her felt cold, empty. There was no more noise, no more fake laughter, just silence and regret. Maxwell had used her and dumped her like old rapper. She had lost everything. And worst of all, she knew it was her fault. One afternoon, she sat alone and remembered the rumors she used to ignore about her father becoming rich again, about how he was now successful in the city before she thought they were lies. But now she wanted to believe. She couldn't stay in the village any longer. She had to find out for herself. The next morning, she packed a small bag, entered a bus, and headed straight to the city. When she entered the company compound and saw the name written boldly on the building, her legs shook. Richard & Sons. Holdings. It was real. Her father was really a wealthy man. She waited at the gate for hours. The receptionist refused to let her in at first, but her tears made everything melt. One of the office staff told Richard that a girl outside was crying and asking to see him. He stepped out. His eyes caught hers immediately. Sophia ran to him, knelt down, and burst into tears. "Daddy, please." Her voice broke. "I'm sorry, I was blind. I followed Mommy too much. Please forgive me." He took his daughter into the office. She continued crying. After a long pause, he looked at her and spoke softly. "I forgave you long ago, Sophia, but I blame your mother. She poisoned your heart. She made you believe I was nothing, and you followed her like a shadow." Sophia nodded, still crying. "I know, Daddy. And I'm sorry," Richard continued. "But one thing is clear. I can't live with both of you again. I have a wife now, a woman who respects me and brings me peace. I can't bring trouble into her home." Sophia wiped her tears. "It's okay, Daddy, I'm just happy. You forgave me. I'll be fine." As she stood to leave, Richard called her back. "I have another house across town. Quiet place. Go there. You and your mother can stay there for now." Sophia turned, shocked. He smiled slightly. "I'm not throwing you away. I just want peace. For everyone." Before she left, he handed her an envelope. "Start something with this. No more looking for men. Build something. Be better." Sophia took the envelope with both hands. Tears of relief rolled down again. "Thank you, Daddy. I will never forget this." That same day, Sophia arrived at the house. A clean, quiet compound, big enough for comfort, small enough for peace. She opened the door and met Grace inside, already resting on the couch. They both froze. No words at first, just silence. Then Sophia dropped her bag, walked closer, and knelt down. "Mama, I'm sorry." Grace looked at her daughter with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry, too. I raised you wrong. I made you hate your own father. I made you believe love was all about money." They held each other and cried. Grace wiped Sophia's face. "If I could go back in time, I would change everything. But now all we can do is start again." They sat together side by side in the house that came from the same man they had once rejected. Not as enemies, but as two broken people, slowly trying to become whole again. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.